Real true Christian, or you are a conservative, Stephanie White said you are not welcome to watch this team any longer. I got to tell you, this is the worst look the Indiana Fever have had since Caitlin Clark arrived.
That's the head coach of the Indiana Fever telling Christians and conservatives that they are not welcome. Not in a private conversation. Not in a leaked text message. But out loud, on the record, directed at the paying fans who spent the past year helping build the league's entire economic foundation. And now, the fallout is already proving to be catastrophic.
I did a video on the Matrix and Rose show yesterday. That boycott, that game had 1 million less views. 1 million less viewers than the very last CBS game before it. The game that people said, oh, well, I don't think fans are really going to tune out. Yeah, compared to the previous game, 980,000 fans decided not to watch. A boycott can be done.
According to critics, the boycott of the Matrix and Rose show had a measurable impact. They point to reports showing the broadcast drew roughly 980,000 fewer viewers than the previous CBS telecast, arguing that this wasn't a minor fluctuation, but a significant decline in audience interest. Those critics contend that the drop reflected hundreds of thousands of fans choosing to take their attention elsewhere. In their view, it demonstrated that viewers can influence ratings when they believe their concerns aren't being heard. They also argue that the timing is especially significant because the WNBA has spent years working to attract a larger mainstream audience. According to those observers, just as the league appeared to be reaching new levels of popularity, they believe comments from Stephanie White risked pushing away many of the very fans who helped fuel that growth.
Business, the Indiana Fever, and your coach gave the middle finger to millions of new viewers and fans and merchandise buyers, etc., etc. And here's my issue. A lot of people will say, well, trade her out of Indianapolis. It's going to be this way with every damn team in this league. It's the league.
According to critics, Stephanie White's remarks immediately triggered a wave of backlash. Within hours, the Indiana Fever's social media pages became flooded with reactions, not from anonymous trolls or automated accounts, they argue, but from longtime supporters sharing photos of their Caitlin Clark jerseys, game tickets, and hotel receipts from trips to Indianapolis. Many pointed to the money and time they had invested in supporting the team, saying they felt the coach's comments suggested their personal values made them unwelcome as fans. Critics believe the business implications could be significant. They note that the Fever sold out games this season at unprecedented levels, while local restaurants, hotels, and businesses around Gainbridge Fieldhouse benefited from increased crowds on game nights. According to those observers, Caitlin Clark's arrival brought a new wave of fans that boosted not only the franchise but also the surrounding Indianapolis economy. Those critics argue that Stephanie White's comments risked alienating that very audience, and they point out that the controversy erupted at the same time 3 Fever players were being announced as 2025 WNBA All-Star starters. A moment they believe should have been focused entirely on celebrating the team's success.
We're going to watch. But yeah, right there, Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell have all made the team as all-stars right here. Let's see this little video that the Fever put up.
Caitlin Clark, Boston, Kelsey Mitchell.
This is how you bring the roof down.
Oh, sidestep Clark. Set. Clark with the ball on a string.
Like a globetrotter from another stratosphere.
Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston were all selected as starters for the 2025 WNBA All-Star Game. According to critics, that announcement should have been a moment of celebration for the Indiana Fever, a chance to highlight the team's success and growing national profile. Instead, they argue, the milestone has been overshadowed by a public relations controversy surrounding the organization. Critics also point to what they describe as a lack of response from the team's leadership. They note that the front office has not released a public statement, offered clarification, or addressed the growing criticism. They also observe that team owner Herb Simon has remained silent throughout the situation. Meanwhile, the Fever's official social media accounts have continued posting promotional content and highlight videos as usual. According to those critics, the contrast between the team's normal online activity and the heated discussions taking place in the comment sections has only intensified the controversy.
Wait for the day Cece is playing somewhere else. Only Stephanie White could turn a team with 3 All-Stars into a 7th seed. Fire that pathetic coach Stephanie White. How the F is she still defending Alyssa Thomas? Wow. Don't promote our girl, Cece, if she's not going to get to play. In other words, protect her better. Fire Stephanie White. Man, I can't wait to see what this looks like in another 12 hours. In another 12 hours, because it is going to be ugly.
According to critics, calls to fire Stephanie White are now appearing beneath nearly every social media post related to the team. They point out that users continue sharing clips of the controversy while also bringing up Alyssa Thomas, the Connecticut Sun player who has been involved in several on-court incidents with Caitlin Clark. Those critics argue that Stephanie White publicly defended Thomas following one of those incidents, but has not shown the same level of public support for her own franchise player. Whether that perception is fair or not, they believe it has become a major source of frustration among Clark supporters. In their view, however, the issue extends far beyond one coach or a single controversy. They argue that the WNBA is still trying to figure out how to respond to Caitlin Clark's unprecedented popularity. Clark arrived from Iowa and attracted an audience unlike any the league had previously reached. According to those observers, many of those new fans come from more conservative, Midwestern, and Christian communities than the league's traditional audience. Critics contend that, rather than embracing this expanded fan base as an opportunity to grow the sport, parts of the league's existing culture have treated those newcomers as outsiders instead of welcoming them into the game.
It is a massacre. After what Stephanie White said yesterday, it is ugly. And you know what? Stephanie White has allowed her own social and political beliefs to officially interfere with her professional job. I have a vote of no confidence. It's over. It's over. And it's going to be interesting to see how fans react. Are fans going to tune out of these games? Keep in mind, they told a massive portion of the new fan base, you're not welcome to watch.
Critics have also pointed to the hardware store promotion mentioned earlier. They note that the Indiana Fever are now offering free merchandise as part of ticket promotions, arguing that it's a noticeable shift from just 1 year ago, when tickets were selling at premium prices and demand was at an all-time high. According to those critics, that change isn't a coincidence. They believe it's the result of distancing the very audience that helped create the team's surge in popularity. They also argue that recent boycott threats shouldn't be dismissed as empty rhetoric. Supporters of that view point to the decline in viewership for the Matrix and Rose show following online calls for a boycott over what some fans considered disrespectful treatment of Caitlin Clark. They cite that drop as evidence that fan backlash can have measurable consequences. Critics further argue that the WNBA's long-term media rights agreements, and many of the league's financial projections, depend on maintaining the large audience drawn in by Caitlin Clark. In their view, if that audience stops watching, the expectations behind those growth forecasts could be significantly affected.
Yeah, Christine Brennan yesterday on the Dan Dockett show, a really good interview by Dan Dockett. I'm going to keep it real. A really good interview with Christine Brennan, and she said she believes this is the definitive picture of the NBA, the WNBA right now. Really talk about tone deaf. The problem you have with the online community is because you haven't done anything about the situation, for F's sakes. Need to fire your shit coach.
She's been covering the WNBA since the league's earliest days, and even she describes this as one of the defining moments shaping its public image. According to her, the image now circulating isn't symbolic, it's a coach making an unmistakable gesture that's spreading across social media. In her view, that's become the visual many casual sports fans now associate with the Indiana Fever and, by extension, the WNBA itself. Critics also point out that the league has yet to respond publicly. They note that WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has not issued a statement, and the league office has neither announced fines, suspensions, nor publicly addressed the controversy. According to those observers, the absence of any official response has been striking. They argue that when no action is taken after such a high-profile incident, many people interpret that silence as approval, or, at the very least, acceptance of what happened.
That Fever fans are sick and tired of jealous, racist lesbians assaulting Caitlin Clark. She's not going to do that. It's part of Stephanie White's core political and social mindset. She cannot do it. She cannot put her own feelings and her own lifestyle to the side to do her job. I got to tell you, if I would have been Herb Simon, I would have heard that rant, and within 30 minutes, Stephanie White would have been relieved of her duties.
According to critics, that's exactly the issue. They argue that if this had happened in almost any other professional sports league, Stephanie White would have been dismissed within hours. Not because of her personal beliefs or private life, but because they believe she publicly criticized the team's customer base. In their view, that's one of the biggest mistakes a professional sports organization can make. They argue that coaches and executives are free to hold whatever political opinions or support whatever causes they choose. However, they believe the moment someone suggests that paying fans aren't real supporters because of their religion, political views, or personal beliefs, they've crossed a line that no successful business should ignore. Critics also point to the Indiana Pacers, which share ownership with the Fever, arguing that a Pacers coach would never be allowed to publicly alienate a large portion of the fan base without immediate consequences. They believe ownership, including Herb Simon, would respond quickly to protect the organization's relationship with its supporters. According to those critics, the WNBA is sometimes treated differently, with an assumption that traditional business principles don't always apply. They argue that prioritizing ideology over fan support and revenue is a risky strategy, and they question whether that approach is sustainable over the long term.
That. Woo! Fever coach needs to get her heads out of her ass. She's a racist, homophobic bee that needs to be fired. I don't know about homophobic, but the only marginalized community of the WNBA doesn't elevate straight white women. Yeah, I mean, look, Ben Daniel pointed out yesterday that Caitlin Clark is the marginalized in this league. He's right. She's straight and she's white. I don't know what we're going to do if Caitlin Clark actually comes out and defends Alyssa Thomas, because some people are expecting...
According to some critics, that's the heart of the controversy. They argue that Caitlin Clark has become the one who feels isolated within the league, not because of traditional forms of discrimination or oppression, but because they believe the WNBA's culture has favored a different narrative. In their view, Clark's background and public image don't fit what they expected from the league's biggest star. Those critics contend that the league wanted a player to elevate women's basketball, but imagined that person would represent a different profile. When Caitlin Clark emerged as the sport's biggest attraction, they argue it created tension that the league wasn't prepared to handle. Many of Clark's supporters also worry that she'll eventually feel pressured to defend Alyssa Thomas or minimize the controversy. They fear she could release a carefully crafted statement emphasizing unity and moving forward, one they believe would be written by a public relations team focused on protecting her standing within the league. According to those supporters, if Clark is ever placed in a position where she feels compelled to publicly distance herself from her own fan base in order to protect her career, that could become the breaking point. Rather than launching an organized boycott, they believe many fans would simply stop watching and quietly walk away from the league.
Have major anger problems, jealousy, disrespect. Does Stephanie White realize that she gave a list of things she and the W stand for? but then goes on and rejects a list of people that have differing views. Yeah, if you're politically middle center to right, and you're and or a Christian, they told you not to be a fan. Understand that the coach told you not to be a fan of the team, that you're not a real fan.
These are fans who invested thousands of dollars and devoted countless hours to supporting the team. Many of them had never watched women's basketball before Caitlin Clark's rise at Iowa. They learned every player's name on the Indiana Fever roster, purchased League Pass subscriptions, traveled to road games, and became genuine supporters of the sport. According to critics, Stephanie White's comments made those fans feel as though they were never truly welcome, that unless they met a certain political or social standard, their loyalty didn't matter. They argue that this entire controversy could have been avoided. All the Fever had to do was let Caitlin Clark play basketball, protect her from unnecessary physical play, build the offense around her strengths, and embrace the success she helped create. Instead, critics believe the organization hired a coach who appears to resent the very player many credit with transforming the franchise's financial future. To those observers, it's an extraordinary example of self-sabotage, one that has put the team's momentum and relationship with its fan base at risk.
Set this one out. Your coach, your franchise is destroying women's basketball. Right here, I mean, a lot of people tagged. She is tagged. This is tagged. Right here, Stephanie White's rant is tagged on these posts. It is, boy. And what is this? Gamecocks? I mean, they're 8 up with South. Look at that. They're 8 up with South Carolina.
Then came the new CBA, the collective bargaining agreement that delivered major salary increases, improved travel conditions, and better overall benefits for WNBA players. Many supporters argue those financial gains became possible because of the massive revenue generated by Caitlin Clark's popularity. The league's multi-billion-dollar media rights agreements with ESPN, NBC, and Amazon were also driven by growing interest in women's basketball. Executives saw the television ratings, fan engagement, and attention surrounding Clark, leading them to invest in the league at an unprecedented level. According to critics, the very fans Stephanie White criticized are the same supporters who helped fuel the WNBA's financial growth and pave the way for players to earn the highest salaries in league history. They argue that, instead of appreciation, those fans now feel they're being told their values don't belong in women's basketball. They believe the current atmosphere suggests that supporting Caitlin Clark means risking being labeled unfairly for questioning events that happen on the court. To those critics, it's an impossible position, one they believe only pushes loyal fans away.
Decided to do yesterday. I have never seen a coach attack a fan base that literally built the new CBA, that literally landed the new media rights deal. Those fans that have taken their time and spent their money, the coach crapped on yesterday. I've never heard of anything like that.
The rotations may have been questionable, but she never went after the fan base. She never made supporters feel unwelcome because of their personal beliefs. She understood that her responsibility was to coach basketball, win games, and manage the roster, not to judge ticket holders based on their ideology. Now, many fans are looking back at the Christie Sides era with a sense of nostalgia, and that alone shows how badly critics believe Stephanie White has mishandled the situation. When people start saying, "Bring back the coach we were calling to fire just 3 months ago," it's a clear sign that confidence has collapsed. At that point, you've lost the locker room, you've lost the fans, and you've completely lost the trust of the people who supported the team.
With South Carolina, boycott, it's ugly. It's ugly. It's unbelievable. I don't...
That's the question the Indiana Fever must answer over the next 72 hours. Can they recover from this? Can they reverse the situation, or has the damage already become permanent? Here's what happens next. The Fever have an important promotional event approaching, season ticket renewals to manage, and corporate sponsors closely watching as the team's reputation gets criticized across social media. Those sponsors didn't invest to be connected with a coach who appears to alienate a large portion of Indiana's fan base. They partnered with the organization because of Caitlin Clark, the most marketable player in women's basketball. If this controversy continues to grow, sponsors may begin asking difficult questions about whether their investments are being used wisely. Meanwhile, the league faces its own decision. Is it willing to let one coach jeopardize the entire Caitlin Clark-driven economic surge? That's what's truly at stake. Not only the Fever's ticket sales, but the WNBA's overall growth. If Clark's audience turns away, the projections that helped justify the league's media deals could fall apart. The television ratings that encouraged networks to invest billions could disappear, and the league could find itself returning to a niche product that struggles financially and depends on NBA support to survive. Critics argue that Stephanie White put all of this at risk by allowing her personal views to interfere with her professional responsibilities, while the Fever's front office has failed to address the situation. They see it as organizational malpractice and a breakdown of leadership at every level. Unless someone with real authority, whether Herb Simon, the league office, or another key decision-maker, steps in and takes action, many believe the situation will continue to worsen before it improves. Fans aren't bluffing. They've already shown they are willing to stop watching, and they've made it clear that their loyalty has limits. Stephanie White, according to those critics, has pushed those limits in the most reckless way possible. The question now is whether the Indiana Fever value their business enough to respond, or whether they'll allow this controversy to overshadow what Caitlin Clark has helped build. So, where do you stand? Are you still watching Fever games after this, or is this your breaking point? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button if you believe this was a fireable offense, and subscribe because this story is far from over.